So yeah, it's going to be solo, not me with Chris or interviewing someone. Just the solo talking about game industry news. And the only reason why I'm doing that isn't because I was like, oh, I need something to do on the next KoiCast and I don't know what to do. It's more like there's a bunch of stuff that's happened in the past 2 weeks that I've wanted to talk about on stream, but didn't want to spend like an hour in a random stream talking about it, or 30 minutes or something. So I decided to put it all in a Google Doc, all the stuff that I want to talk about, put links to articles and things that talk about those subjects that I'm going to bring up, and got it all nice and formatted for my own little talking points for myself for today's KoiCast. Before actually starting, again, hope everyone's doing well and having a good Friday. And welcome to the fifth KoiCast. Our solo news time this week. I want to have a guest on next week. I don't know if I'm going to do Chris again or if I'm going to interview someone next week, but we're going to do one of those two. Not next week, but 2 weeks from now for KoiCast number 6. For this one, though, we got some news stuff to hop into. It's also thundering outside very intensely. So as I've said the past few days on stream, that it's been thundering outside. If my power goes out, then that's why the stream randomly shuts down. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully the stream doesn't randomly shut down, and we should be good to go. This is the very beginning of the stream, Tycho. Yeah, very, very beginning. Friday evening stream for the KoiCast. All right, so the first thing is related to something that we've done on stream this week, actually, and I want to get this out of the way at the beginning of this KoiCast because I just want to talk about it in a more condensed time on stream than when I randomly have ranted about it throughout the week. So for those of you who are here on Tuesday's stream, you know that we played through Agony, which is a beautiful game that came out on Steam this Tuesday. If you haven't seen it, it was supposed to be a super edgy, boundary-pushing, crazy next-gen horror game. And it got kickstarted to be released on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. I think originally it was only going to be on PC, but for whatever reason they signed deals with Microsoft and Sony to get it on console as well, which actually deals or impacts what I'm about to bring up. So, if you were on Tuesday's stream, and if not, I'll just say, the game was none of those things. It was not super edgy. It was not super next-gen and beautiful and boundary-pushing. It was just a pretty generic and not the best horror game, which might even be an understatement because it was completely unfinished. The second half of the game wasn't even done, clearly, just by playing it. As if to the point where there's not even a way that I can see a dev having played through the game before releasing it. Like, there's just no way. But interestingly enough, the day before the release, they posted specifically on the Steam store page that this game contains a set number of things. They specifically said that it contains, and I'm reading this off of the Steam page posted by the devs the day before it came out. Drugs, strong language, intense violence, setting fire to martyrs and demons. Okay, whatever that is. Children's heads exploding, heart plucking, eye gouging, genital physics, lesbian and gay sex scenes, for whatever reason, separate from brutal sex scenes, and to top it all off, gore is what this game was promised to have. That being said, I went into this game not caring about any of that stuff. I would hope that not a lot of people went into this game looking forward to whatever brutal sex scenes are. But I went into this game wanting a game that simulated, or at least the development team's vision of walking through hell, which is essentially what the game is, or what the plot revolves around. But I can say right now, after having fully played through the game, contained about half of that. It 100% didn't include brutal sex scenes. Not that I specifically wanted it to, but again, they sold this game, and they got those Kickstarter backers, that like $200,000 of Kickstarter backers, off of advertising it as like this extremely adults only, not safe for work game. Like extremely. But it was just a pretty generic, unfinished, bad indie horror game when it came out with none of this stuff, or half of it. I don't even know if it contained drugs. Children heads exploding? I don't know. Like, that's the stuff that they advertise the game as having. So the game comes out, and people get super upset because originally they were also going to release an uncensored patch. They said that the release of it on consoles and on Steam was going to be censored because of the rating boards not allowing them to, like ESRB and PEGI, not allowing them to contain this higher level of stuff. And so they said they were, for PC only, going to release an adults only patch where you could have all of the stuff that was censored, which I assume includes brutal sex scenes, in the game. Like 12 hours before release, they said they could no longer release the uncensored patch because they would get sued and their studio would be shut down. That's what they said. They didn't say why. They didn't explain any of that kind of stuff, just that they would be sued and their studio would be shut down. So now everyone's angry. Half the people are upset on the Steam community page. People who backed it on Kickstarter are like, you sold us this game that has these things in it, and it's now not able to include those things the day before release. And half the people were upset because censorship, people crying, censorship is bad. And it is, in most cases, or even all cases, depending. But half the people were super pissed at the devs for like, oh my god, these horrible garbage devs are censoring our game that we paid for. And everyone else who was upset is upset at the rating boards, ESRB and PEGI, for them censoring the stuff that they censored. So that was all like right before the game came out. And now that it's out and people have experienced the game and how it's just unfinished and how parts of it are censored, but like it doesn't even matter if they were censored or not because it's still a bad game and it still doesn't have that stuff that they advertised. So now everyone went from being like half mad at the devs, half mad at the rating boards, to everyone hating the devs because it doesn't seem like they released the product that they promised. And I can certainly attest to that. Again, I wasn't invested in it, and I wasn't looking forward to any of the stuff that was censored. I was just looking forward to a simulator of walking through hell in a horror game type environment. It was that, technically, but it wasn't anything that they really advertised. So then people got concerned. And this is what came up after it got released, after I streamed it, and what I haven't talked about, is people got concerned as to why they originally said they were going to get sued. Why would this studio say, we can't release this adults-only patch because we're going to get sued and our team getting taken down, our studio getting shut down? Because that doesn't make any sense. That they would just get sued unless they had some contractual obligation that prevented them from releasing this adults-only patch on PC. And people have realized the entire time it's not so much the fault of the devs and the fault of ESRB and PEGI. It's Microsoft and Sony, allegedly, where the contract with Microsoft and Sony to have the game on consoles, people are speculating, is causing them to not be able to release a superior or altered version of the same game on Steam. Meaning, the contracts with Microsoft and Sony require them to have the game be the same on all platforms. And they probably can't say that, because otherwise they would have said that, I'd hope. But that's what it sounds like. So people are upset about this game, and it has terrible reviews. And it's like, for whatever reason, a super controversial thing now, not because it was gonna be some horrible, gory, super sexual, violent hell game, but because of censorship and a very, very confusing grouping of statements by the dev team. But what's interesting is now, literally like today, they're saying that they're trying to release the game on a different website, not Steam. GOG is the website that they want to release it on. GOG is a website that's essentially like Steam. You buy games off of it and install them on PC. And it seems like now the dev team of Agony is releasing a different version of Agony and calling it a different name, to as if using like a loophole from those contracts that I was talking about with Microsoft and Sony to release a different version of it on a different website that contains the uncensored stuff. So it's very, very complicated, but what doesn't make any sense is why they went about it this way. And I feel bad for the however many thousands of people who backed this game on Kickstarter expecting a product and literally didn't get what they were advertised because they were told that that wasn't going to be the case anymore less than 24 hours before the game's release. And now those backers on Kickstarter want to sue the dev team. So they've fucked up in like every situation in every way possible. And it's not much of a important story like the rest of the stuff that I want to bring up today. But because it's something that we played on stream, and just because of the ridiculousness of the situation, I thought I might as well start off this KoiCast with talking about it. But that's pretty much the beginning and the end of the controversy this week that's around Agony. And I doubt that anything of note is going to come out of that after this week. It seems to be kind of done. And I highly doubt that the next game by this studio, if they ever put out another one, is going to sell well after the situation that's gone down. So yeah. Yazawa, another game with this type of situation is Bless Online. I don't know anything about that, but I did see a post on the gaming subreddit today about Bless Online and how someone said it was plagiarizing How to Train Your Dragon, because a scene in this game, Bless Online, with someone riding a dragon was pretty much exactly the same as a scene from the movie How to Train Your Dragon. I feel like that's more not imitation, but paying homage to or referencing than plagiarism, rather than them plagiarizing a movie in a video game. Can you even claim that correctly? No, I don't know anything about Bless Online, but apparently people are upset about things related to Bless Online as well. Whatever that be. Hope you're doing well, Basher. Hope things are good. Except, wait, you type things backwards? Someone, they probably made the game and didn't have a clue what was in it, so they added a lot of random things in the warrant. Oh yeah. Cover all bases. That's what I mean, it's interesting. If you look at a lot of gaming Kickstarters, what it is every good sounding promise possible. In a lot of cases. Or, you know, they'll take the best points of whatever it is that they're trying to get kickstarted, and they'll amplify them a lot on Kickstarter, which makes sense, and they should do that. I mean, if you want people to back your thing on Kickstarter, how else are you going to do that other than taking the best parts of it and advertising it? The problem is if you do it to a point where you can't even legally include those things that you're advertising in the game, then people are going to get upset. And apparently you're going to get sued, or at least, people are going to attempt to sue you, and say that you're frauding them and that you're not worth the money that they paid for, and they're going to refund that Kickstarter money, as what's going on right now. So I kind of feel bad for the studio, because it's like, if those allegations about their contracts with Microsoft and Sony are true, then I feel like that's not entirely their intention. It wasn't their intention to have the game on consoles prevent them from releasing their promised product on PC. But that's what happened. Or at least what probably happened, or something like that. So it's unfortunate. They're so wholesome too, and all their Steam community posts. I mean, I guess what dev team wouldn't be like super nice and kind, but for some reason I get the vibe from reading their posts that they have such good intentions, and they didn't mean to fuck everyone over who bought their game, or who bought their game for the things that they advertised, but they did unintentionally, and that sucks. So that's Agony. And if you're listening to this, if you're watching this right now, if you watch it on YouTube, if you listen to it somewhere else, and you're wondering, Agony looks interesting, should I buy it? The answer is no. The answer is a quite resounding no. Unless it's like less than $20. Probably not worth it. Another quick little thing, PewDiePie, for whatever reason, is playing through it on Steam, or on YouTube. And I just, for some reason, found that interesting, because why? Like, that seems like a random game for him to play through. And he hasn't even done something like that on YouTube in a while. And also, the Agony team on the Steam page posted the same time he uploaded the video, hey, go check out PewDiePie's YouTube channel to watch him play through our game. So I don't know if they paid him to play their game. Everything around Agony is very, very weird. And very, very... Oh, hi Java. He's meowed. Very, very dishonest feeling, but I still feel like that's not their intention. I don't know. I wish I could refund the game, I think is my my final point. Anyway, there's Agony. I wasted way too much time talking about that. Holy shit. That's like the thing I wanted to brush over for like 10 minutes on this KoiCast. I've talked about that for like 20, 25 minutes. Rip me. Okay. Next thing. So, I'm sure you guys, we talked about it a time ago with Chris Gingerbutts when he was on the podcast. I think that was the third or second when Chris and I talked about loot box stuff. This happened in the past 2 weeks. So the ESA is, what does ESA stand for? I should actually look this up. Let's see. The ESA is the Entertainment Software Association, which is above the ESRB. And as you guys know, ESRB is the rating board, at least in the United States, that gives ratings to games and says what's in them on that beautiful little letter logo on the physical copies of the boxes. The ESA is also lobbied by companies like EA, all publishing companies, Activision. And the problem with that, as you could assume, is if EA, for example, in a really, really toned down version, just for the explanation, EA could lobby the ESA to essentially be fine with loot boxes in games. And if the ESA wants there to be loot boxes in games, then the ESRB isn't going to say loot boxes are bad and give those games a higher or adult rating if they have loot boxes. They're going to say, oh, they're just fun in-app purchases, so the games can still be rated T for teen or E for everyone without us needing to make it M for mature or adults only. Because a lot of people say loot boxes are gambling, because they are, essentially. even if they're not the legal definition of gambling, they trigger the same mental responses as gambling would. So a lot of people want the ESRB to declare loot boxes as a form of gambling, give those games an M for mature or adults only rating. And as you guys know, and sort of this goes along with Agony as well, if a game receives an adult only rating, it can't be on consoles. I don't think they can be released on Steam, and it's very hard to sell a game if it's adults only. So instead, and this has already happened in the past, the ESRB has specifically declared, this is all old news, this is new stuff. The ESRB has specifically declared that loot boxes are not gambling, while at the same time, Belgium, the Netherlands, and other areas of the world are legally declaring loot boxes as gambling, at least in games where you can take the rewards from those loot boxes and make real world money from them, even if those are from third-party markets. So like even if in the game itself you can't cash out loot box rewards, as long as there's some way for you to make real world money from a loot box in those areas of the world, and increasingly in other areas of the world as more people are bringing it up in government and trying to get laws to pass, it's becoming legally gambling, and therefore illegal to sell if you're under a certain age. Meanwhile, again, the ESRB claims it's not. But the ESRB isn't a government corporation and doesn't have any scientific backing. They're just simply declaring as the ESRB, just as the group that gives games ratings, that loot boxes aren't gambling. So that's the precursor to what I'm about to say. So the president of the ESA, the president of the Entertainment Software Association, 4 days ago, at least the time of this article is 4 days ago, specifically went out of his way to defend loot boxes. The president of the ESA, which companies like Activision, EA lobby, and which is the company above the ESRB that controls the ESRB. The president of the ESA defended loot boxes at the Nordic Game Conference and specifically said that the game mechanic, loot boxes, are not gambling. And this is a specific quote. He specifically says, "We can't go to the lowest common denominator of government around the world and make that the standard the rest of the world has to live by and limit the trajectory of the industry." So the ESA president is saying, we can't go to these places like Belgium, the Netherlands, that are declaring loot boxes illegal and declaring them a legal form of gambling. We can't say, oh, because these countries do it, loot boxes need to be illegal everywhere. And if they were illegal everywhere, then it would be limiting the trajectory of the gaming industry, and that we wouldn't be able to advance the gaming industry in the way that we want to. Because apparently for the ESA and the ESRB and companies like EA and Activision, you know, every big publisher company that you could think of that would want to include loot boxes in their games, they love to declare many, many times that loot boxes are not only very, very fun for users, but that specifically a lot of users like to have that as a part of their game, want to have that as a part of their game, and need to have that as a part of their game in order for the gaming industry as a whole to grow and advance and innovate upon itself. They would have you know that it is required for usually younger audiences, the likes of those who buy FIFA every year and Call of Duty every year and every big EA game that gets out there. Apparently, that's the best audience to give loot boxes to for fun and for the growth of the industry. Not specifically, not for money or anything like that, but definitely for the growth of the industry. Not to make them just buy loot boxes and gamble over and over again. So, the president of the ESA expressed that multiple game publishers expressed that, I want to read these quotes specifically that he said. Let's see. It's not gambling, blah, blah, blah. When you look at the definitions of gambling throughout the world, this is again by the ESA president who said this, and how this is done and how it's regulated in places like Las Vegas in the US, it's quite different to the mechanism with loot boxes and games. Here's the problem, though. It's not quite different to the mechanism with loot boxes and games. In fact, anyone can search right now and find out that it has already been proven by psychiatrists and the like, psychologists, I should say, not specifically psychiatrists, let me get that right, that it does trigger the exact same responses and mechanisms that going and using a slot machine have. Even loot boxes like those in Overwatch. And it's not a matter of if the loot boxes are cosmetic or cause in-game stuff. That's a whole different argument. It's just the idea of having a loot box in the game itself is, on a mental level, triggers the exact same things that going and using a slot machine does, which isn't like some horrible bad thing. If you're of age and it's legal for you to do that, you can go play with the slot machine all you want. But the problem is when you're the corporation that is responsible for giving ratings and for allowing games to go to those who are under that age, those who are under 18, and you're specifically saying those games should include loot boxes. That's when it becomes a problem. Because for a lot of people, they're seeing that as the same thing as pushing gambling upon children, which is definitely an issue. So until it gets legally declared that more worldwide, they're going to keep doing that as much as they can. But what's weird about the whole thing is, if you guys have known this, like for example, Battlefield 5 got announced, and they're specifically saying, hey, guess what? We don't have any loot boxes, we don't have this, because now it's a bad thing. If you say, hey, our game has loot boxes, people are generally going to give you shit nowadays, especially ever since the Battlefront 2 stuff happened. But 4 days ago, as of 4 days ago, the head of the ESA, the president of the ESA, is sitting and saying that they're needed in the game industry for the advancement of the industry. And that if we did limit loot boxes, as they're being in Belgium and Netherlands legally and places like that, that would limit the trajectory of the industry. And that's not the best approach. In fact, here's another beautiful quote from the head of the ESA. We believe it's best to be clear about the facts and make sure those carry... What? Does this even make sense? We believe it's best to be clear... Wait, am I reading this right? We believe it's best to be clear about the facts and make sure those carry the day around the world. So we drive an outcome that best extends the game industry's frontiers and looks after the interests of gamers. I think, and make sure those carry the day around the world. I think he's talking about facts. Make sure the facts carry weight. I'm not sure what he means there, but he's explaining that having loot boxes allows them to look after the interest of gamers. So, I don't know about you guys, but from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure that loot boxes don't necessarily look out for the interest of gamers. And I think, if anything, that the general public specifically doesn't want those, and specifically don't want that to be the case at all. He also says Monetization mechanisms similar to loot boxes have existed in video games for, quote, a long time. A fact that individuals and agencies seeking to regulate the loot boxes often aren't aware of. So basically, the ESA president is saying, but they've always been a thing. Belgium, Netherlands, all these places that are trying to get rid of loot boxes, they've always been a thing. Why are they bad now? This place does it, this place does it, they've always been a thing, which means they should always be a thing. Also, gamers love them, specifically children. If we got rid of them, then the game industry would die. So yeah. That's the beautiful message from essentially the president of the entire gaming industry. Essentially. And that's not even a joke. Because the ESA is the corporation that gaming publishers, who are essentially above gaming dev teams and gaming studios, if you go from like game studios to game publishers to the ESA as the top dog, and then the ESRB is under the ESA that gives all the games a rating. And if you have the president of all of that saying what has already in many areas of the world been legally declared as gambling that cannot be accessed by children lest those games need to be removed from said areas of the world or face legal charges, those places have already declared it gambling, and the president of the ESA, who has certainly no education, I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's fully educated on the psychological effects of this, maybe he has a whole team of researchers behind him, maybe he's studied that at college, at university, but for some reason I don't feel like that's the case. And he himself is declaring that they're not gambling. And I'm pretty sure he can't do that. But that's what he's doing. So. They should just make loot boxes give the best drops every single time. There wouldn't be a problem. Make them give the best drops. And then slowly make those drops worse and worse and worse to make you spend more and more money so that you get a better drop. Because they're like, oh my god, I got such good luck. Where's my luck? I'll keep paying until I get that good luck again. It's gambling. It's gambling. Also, another note, actually, before I move on. The ESRB has graciously added a thing to game ratings. So that now if you look on your physical box of your game, you can see if it has in-game purchases. Graciously added that to save the gamers, because the gamers all around the world have begged, ESA, ESRB, we hate loot boxes. We don't want them in our games. Please make those games not accessible to children. Please make buyers, make parents of those children aware that these games contain gambling mechanisms. So the ESRB has graciously added this game contains in-game purchases to games that have loot boxes. It doesn't affect the game's rating at all. It could still be E for everyone. And it could still say this game contains in-game purchases. But you know what else they've done? Is they've included that on any game that has in-game purchases. Which means if a game has DLC, if a little indie game like Celeste has a DLC that adds 3 chapters, it gets the same rating and the same label as a game that contains gambling loot boxes that you can sell for real world money. So essentially, the SRB has done absolutely nothing and only made themselves look worse in the situation. Which, to end on, I want to say is where my confusion lies. If the entire public, generally, right, especially all the people who are any level aware of this, or who are gamers, quote unquote, if all of them know that it's all bullshit, And all of them already hate ESRB, the ESA, the publishers that are lobbying the ESA for loot boxes and all that stuff. The same people, the same gamers who are trying to get governments to regulate loot boxes and say that they're legally gambling and can't be accessed by children. If those people already hate the ASRB and the ESA, then who are the ESRB and the ESA trying to please when they say, like, oh, hey, we're listening. We're going to put a thing now on every box that has loot boxes that says it contains in-app purchases. Because they're not pleasing those people. I can't figure out who they're selling it to. Is it the only thing I can think of is it's their investors. But even I feel like that doesn't make sense. Because all that's going to do is show the investors more outrage from the community. Like, who is the ESA president pleasing? Who is he selling to when he says that he knows loot boxes aren't gambling? Because all he's doing is upsetting the general people. I can't figure it out. And they keep doing it. It's the same thing with EA and even Bungie sometimes, more recently, or I guess that's Activision, saying, we're listening to you, we're going to do this, we're going to try this, but none of those things happen, and it's just always the same, trying to get money, especially as the ESA president has brought up here, through loot boxes and gambling. I can't figure out who they're trying to please when they say stuff like this, other than themselves. It's like an echo chamber for themselves, but they say it all publicly. And so it just makes everyone more upset. So it doesn't even work in their favor, and it just pisses everyone off. It's the most annoying thing. Basher, they're taking a Sotark's approach. Everyone will hate them, but somehow it'll work out. And that's the most annoying thing, right? That's why it's like it has to be the government and regulation that ends it. Because you're right. The next FIFA is going to come out. It's going to have things that you can buy. Loot box systems. It's EA. How could it not? Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. And it's going to be sold to mainly people probably under the age of 18 around the world. And those same people are going to be able to buy those and then sell those accounts. And I don't know exactly how you can make real world money from FIFA. I don't know if it's account selling or something else, but I know you can. Through third parties, not like officially through EA's game system, but you could still make real world money from it. That game is going to make a shit ton of money. And the people who buy those games are going to lose a shit ton of money. And that's going to happen as long as those games come out. Even if everyone's hating on it, and even if everyone seems to be aware that the systems are scummy. Until we get, like, government regulation. Because the ESRB isn't going to do shit. The Entertainment Software Association and its president, as of right now, aren't going to do shit, clearly. The publishers aren't going to do shit. So what happens? There's the only remaining answer becomes government intervention. Whether people want it or not. And the game industry certainly doesn't want it. You know what? I think that's what it is. Hope you're doing well, Talent. I think that's what it is. One, an echo chamber for them, for the publishers, the Entertainment Software Association, and for the ESRB. But I think it's also almost like a statement to the government. If you have the president of the Entertainment Software Association that's above the game publishers and above the ESRB declaring himself that loot boxes aren't gambling and that they're needed for the advancement of the game industry and for the fun of the players, they're probably doing that so that the government hears that, or that world governments hear that more than anyone else, to make them less likely to want to intervene and regulate stuff. Because the last thing the game industry wants is government regulation. Because right now, that's the whole reason why the ESRB and the ESA and systems like PEGI exist. for there to not be government intervention. But all they're doing by making statements like this, especially I feel like with the president of the ESA saying these things, is causing it to be more likely that the government intervenes, because now people are going to specifically want those in office who are going to push laws that regulate in-game loot boxes. So it seems like they're asking for it, but they're so scared of it that they can't stop digging their ditch more and more by making statements like the president of the ESA has. So I don't know where this situation's going to lead in the next few years. But for whatever reason, I can't see it going well for the ESA and the ESRB, which is good for the general people. It's not good for them, but that's good for us. So hey, that's cool. We'll see where it goes. There's too many people in office around the world and lobbying those in office around the world to be against the ESA and the ESRB for them to come out on top with their loot box schemes. So, there you go. Loot boxes. All right. How long have I been live? 57 minutes. Holy shit. Oh my god. All right, I've got 4 stories to talk about, but I didn't want to go over an hour and a half. I've talked about 2 stories and it's been about an hour. I've got 2 more. Let's do this. Okay. That's how Steins Gate... Oh, this is how Steins Gate starts? They'll fail, make a time machine, turn into CERN. ESA is gonna make a time machine. Just for loot boxes. Alright. Oh, Jesus. I remember when I first saw that article about the... president of the ESA saying that loot boxes aren't gambling and that gamers specifically want them in their games. Like, it's clearly just blatant lies. I don't know if he's actually dumb or if he's that desperate to prevent government intervention, which, again, him making those statements 100% isn't going to prevent government intervention, which means that doesn't seem like it would be why he's doing it, unless he's also dumb for that reason. And I don't want to just shit on him as a person. At the end of the day, he's the president of the gaming industry, and the gaming industry has to make money. But holy shit, that's not a smart way to go about doing it. It worked for a while. Loot boxes in games, but I don't think it's going to go the way that Mr. ESA president wants it to go, which is good. All right. So there you go. The next story is that, unfortunately, this isn't the story itself, but I should preface the story. This is a smaller thing, but I just wanted to bring it up just because it's ridiculous, and it also happened in the past 2 weeks. Let's see, give me a sec. Oops. Okay. So, if you know him or not, Total Biscuit, I don't know much about his work. I know Critality does. I don't think Critality's here right now. I know he would have a lot of passionate stuff to say about this situation. Total Biscuit passed away from cancer, and he's big in the gaming industry for doing... I don't know everything he does, and I don't want to get everything he does wrong, but he was big on YouTube, critiques the game industry. I think he's mostly a game critic, and through that, he's caused a lot of big positive effects in the game industry as a person, and through the things that he's done and through the work he's done. And unfortunately, recently, he's been battling cancer for a long time. He passed away. And that sucks. Because he's done even if he was a very divisive person, and his content apparently was very divisive. Again, I've watched 2 of his videos years ago, so I can't say everything he did or speak about him as a person. But whether he was divisive or not, and whether you know him or not, or whether you liked his content and what he was trying to say and the messages he was trying to put out there or not, he caused a lot of good rippling effects in the game industry in terms of how things like monetization occurred in games in the past and how the game industry flowed as a whole. So, unfortunately, he passed away. That's not the story, though. That's just something that happened to him and where the story is born, because a BioWare developer, if you don't know what BioWare is, let me confirm this right now. BioWare is the game studio that makes games such as Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and the upcoming Anthem, all under EA. Just by coincidence. This has nothing to do with EA. But a developer on BioWare, or of BioWare, with BioWare, upon Total Biscuit's unfortunate passing, went on to Twitter to make the wonderful, wonderful decision to mock his death. Literally. Not even like in a subtle way. A developer for BioWare, which is a huge part of the gaming industry. Mass Effect is hugely popular. EA, whether you like it or not, is hugely popular. This BioWare developer went to Twitter to say, and this is a quote, his tweet itself, these are all taken down now, specifically said, "Weird. The world just felt a little bit better sometime around an hour and a half ago. Maybe it was just those new running shoes I got from my home." His next tweet after that is, "Oh wait, I know. It's because Total Biscuit died. Hey everyone, watch this. I know it's rude to piss on someone's grave, but these axes aren't going to grind themselves." Along with that, he posted a picture of a bunch of axes. So, let me see if I can find what else he said as well, actually, before I continue to comment on it. "How about the time that he was the center point of not one, but two major games I worked on, dishing out a plethora of shitty criticism that was less than useful and didn't help anyone, and are still some of his most viewed videos?" He says on Twitter, also posting a picture of Total Biscuit's YouTube videos on his channel. And he goes on, there's a bunch more tweets by him, again, they're all taken down. He goes on to essentially just spew out all of his personal gripes with Total Biscuit. And again, Total Biscuit, I didn't know much of his content very well or him as a person at all, but was relatively divisive, even though he caused a lot of good impacts in the gaming industry, as I said earlier. And clearly this BioWare developer was on the side of not liking him, or not liking his content, because he went on essentially a Twitter rant about how he didn't like that Total Biscuit criticized BioWare games. To the point where he said the world feels better because Total Biscuit is now dead. And I'm looking through these tweets to see if there's another one to quote to bring up, but he tweeted lots. He like went on a long rant just hating on him. So that's upsetting. That's very, very upsetting. People were very upset. People were even getting mad at EA, which doesn't make any sense. This guy worked for BioWare, whose games are published under EA. This has nothing to do with EA, but people just like to hate on EA. But that's not where the hate belonged. Fully belonged on this guy, not even on BioWare. So much so, to the point where Casey Hudson, the head of BioWare, one of the heads of BioWare, tweeted out, "I was extremely disappointed to find out about the comments on the passing of John Bain at Total Biscuit from someone who was previously a part of BioWare." And I should also say this was tweeted very, very soon after the developer's Twitter rant. Let me be clear that they do not represent BioWare's views, EA's, or my own. Our condolences go out to John and his family. So essentially, this is sort of like, this is not exactly the same as me not understanding why the ESA president would say the things he said. But why the fuck would one of the developers for BioWare, think it's a good idea to publicly do this? To publicly say, I know it's rude to piss on someone's grave, and that the world is better because Total Biscuit died, like right after he died of cancer, or at least right after it was announced that he passed away. I don't know what can go on in someone's head that causes them to think that's a good idea, but he quite literally immediately lost his job and probably his livelihood. And I highly doubt that a person like that is in a relationship with someone where they have that person's financial support. So I think this guy's just fucked his life by doing what he's just done on Twitter, which is probably for the best. Maybe it's extreme to say that this guy's life should get fucked up just because he was mocking someone's death. But at the same time, I don't know what he expected. There's absolutely no way that any other developer or studio is going to hire this person, because one, whether that developer or whether that studio would care if he said these things on Twitter or not isn't going to matter, because if people, whether it's a vocal minority of people or not, see that this person gets hired again to work on a game, whatever studio he's working with is obviously going to get tons of shit, regardless of whether that studio agrees or disagrees. So he's literally fucked his life. So that's something that came out of that. Interestingly enough, again, don't know about him, but I feel like from his content that I've seen, Total Biscuit would be pretty satisfied to know that this person just lost his job. This person that worked on games that he highly criticized and who has also just now mocked his death. He'd probably be pretty happy that he doesn't have a job anymore. So maybe it's for the best. Anyway, wanted to bring that up. Don't shit on people who die. It's not a nice thing to do, especially like right when it happens. Also, when you tweet something on Twitter, this is probably good to know for anyone, whether you're at all a public figure or not. Everyone can see your tweets, I guess, unless you lock your Twitter account. So, you know, even if you delete stuff from the internet, everyone's going to have it. Everyone's going to be able to see it. Always be aware of that. If you're ever thinking of putting something out there that's possibly upsetting to some group of people. Doesn't mean censor yourself, but, you know, don't shit on people who die. It's generally not a good thing to do. You actually might lose your entire job and livelihood. And that being said, let's move on to the last story that I want to talk about. But before I do, also, one last thing. Because I feel bad if I didn't say this. Total Biscuit's family, someone set up a GoFundMe for that because as through his line of work, and this is actually from the GoFundMe itself. Let's see. This is a quote from the GoFundMe. In this career, there are no medical plans, no retirement funds, and no golden parachutes. The financial resources available are limited to the support of viewers and advertisers. John's family are faced with short and long-term challenges around housing, living expenses, income security, etc. So, if it's something that you're interested in, there is a GoFundMe for his family. GoFundMe.com/TotalBiscuit, one word. And it's already raised $271,000 of $200,000 in 7 days. In 7 days, from 8,800 people, they've raised $271,000 for his family. So, I feel like I should plug that. Maybe plug isn't the right word. But I feel like I should add that here at the end of that story. GoFundMe.com/TotalBiscuit. And the guy on Twitter, the BioWare dev, ex-BioWare dev, now that he's fired, is a shitty human. So that being said, and on a completely different note, the last story that I want to bring up today is a little more, maybe lighthearted isn't the word, but a little more just kind of a general thing. So a new Fallout game got announced. I have no interest in the Fallout series. I don't know, you guys in chat, who in chat right now is a fan of Fallout? Because I know a lot of people are. In fact, I feel like most people you come across are. I've never liked Fallout games. I don't know why. But anyway, a new Fallout game got announced, and let me bring this up. Let's see. Basher, you just realized this is a KoiCast. It's a KoiCast, a solo gaming industry news KoiCast. That's going by extremely fast. I've already been live for an hour and 12 minutes. But I got one story left. I'm saving that, Basher. Saving it for another time. I might have done that. I was originally going to do that this week. I didn't know if I should have someone else on, if I should try to find someone to interview, if I should have Chris on, if I should talk about my dream journal, but so many gaming industry things happened in the past 2 weeks that I wanted to talk about them all today. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. So, not the biggest fan of Fallout games, for whatever reason. But new Fallout game got announced, Fallout 76. There was a Twitch stream for it. A Twitch stream by Bethesda's Twitch channel. I think it was an IRL. There was literally just a screen that said something. I don't even remember. Something related to Fallout. It was just sitting on that blank screen. It had like over 100k viewers on Twitch. And after that, there was a teaser trailer put out for Fallout 76. Basher, you're neutral on Fallout? Yeah, I don't not like it. But it just doesn't appeal to me. Like, I wouldn't actively want to buy it and play it. For whatever reason. I think maybe the aesthetic of the game isn't one that appeals to me. But it's one that appeals to a lot of people. Please stand by. That's what the message said on the Twitch stream. So yeah, this new game got announced, Fallout 76. No one knows officially what the game is like. No one knows officially what it's about. And there's not been any gameplay, but what we can see so far from the trailer for the game is that it is on the same engine as Fallout 4. So it's not like the next big, next-gen Fallout game. Otherwise, it would probably be called Fallout 5. But they skipped like 71 numbers. Apparently, it's because it's about Bunker 76. Or Fallout Shelter 76. Jason Schreier on Kotaku. I almost said Otaku. Who is super, super reputable when it comes to game industry leaks, I should mention. Whether you like Kotaku as a website or not. Said in an article on Kotaku that Fallout 76 is going to be, unlike any other Fallout game, an online survival RPG. An online survival RPG. And he also said, in his article, that Fallout 76 is in fact an online survival RPG that's heavily inspired by games like DayZ and Rust. So, if you can imagine, lots and lots and lots of people who are fans of the Fallout series were not happy to hear that their next Fallout game is going to be heavily inspired by games like DayZ and Rust. Or that it will be an online RPG. Because if you guys remember, the last online RPG that Bethesda released was Elder Scrolls Online. And even though that game's doing really, really well, it wasn't necessarily well received by the general gaming community. I personally disliked Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know about everyone in chat or everyone listening to this. How you guys feel about Elder Scrolls Online? But it seems like they're wanting to do some online system with this next Fallout game, which is why they're having a spin-off game, Fallout 76, not Fallout 5. Heavily inspired by DayZ and Rust, which has now become super controversial because people don't seem to want their Fallout RPG single-player game to become online base building, and probably what their fear is that being filled with like monthly fees and buying base building packs and aesthetic building packs and in-game currency to buy more stuff for your base and all that stuff. People are upset about that. There's no official confirmation other than a highly reputable leaking source saying that that is what it's going to be. We're going to see at E3, I assume, which actually, when is E3? Because we're going to co-stream that. I think that's in like 20 days? Let's see. 10 days. So on this channel, I'm going to co-stream E3 in 10 days. And I guess we'll see what it is then. And we'll see if it's true that it's going to be a DayZ Rust type online RPG. It's certainly not going to make me more interested in Fallout. I can say that. I already wasn't always super interested in Fallout. Now I'm 100% not interested in this game. I should also mention specifically that Jason Schreier said that it's not a clone of Rust or DayZ. It's not going to be exactly like it, but it's just going to be a multiplayer RPG that's inspired by those games, which probably means we're looking at something sort of like Elder Scrolls Online with base building mechanics and possibly co-op guild type stuff. Although it probably wouldn't be guilds in a Fallout game. I don't know what they would call it specifically, but that type of system. So, like it or hate it, it seems like that's what Bethesda's doing for their next big game and what they're going to be talking about at E3 in 10 days. Skipped 71 numbers. So, there's Fallout 76 and a little info about that. I think that's the only like big... I mean, I guess a new Call of Duty got shown. We talked about Black Ops 4 like a month ago when that got announced. Again, no one who watches this stream, including me, cares at all about this type of game industry stuff, like the games themselves. I'm not big on Fallout. Any AAA game, I've never really been interested in. Call of Duty, Battlefield, all these games that have been announced and talked about. But I thought I'd bring it up just because it's something going on right now. Fallout 76's announcement and the slight, maybe not even controversy, but agitation that a bit of the community is feeling towards the game. But other than that, I was happy to talk about the other three things, specifically the ESA president talking about loot boxes, because that's something that really, really bothers me. I don't think I've ever played a game that has loot boxes. Not Overwatch, not FIFA, none of the newer COD games or Destiny 2 that have had them. But just from knowing how they all are, and seeing the ESA president's statements about them is enough to make me really, really pissed off. So I was glad to talk about that a bit and bring some light to that situation. Also to the bullshit that happened around the ex-BioWare dev and what he said about Total Biscuit. And then, of course, also about the confusion and bizarreness of the situation around Agony as a game. I'm glad I got to talk about that, because I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for the past 2 weeks on stream, but I've never found a good time to condense it all. But the past hour and 22 minutes have worked out pretty well for that, I must say. Before we end the KoiCast, though, and before I hop into playing Osu, and we do our Friday multi, there's 3 other things I want to bring up, unrelated to game industry news, just sort of about the channel. Basher, you want to try Rust? It's never been something that interests me. Ark, Survival Evolved, Rust, all those kinds of games. They've not been something that super interests me. But they are very popular. Popular enough for Fallout 76 to earn the purchasing by that crowd, or earn the purchasing of by that crowd, even if not like normal, dedicated, or typical Fallout fans. So I'm sure they're going to make a shit ton of money. It's probably a genius idea that they're releasing this game. But it'll be interesting. I probably won't play it, but we'll see. That would probably be more popular of a stream game as well. Which is, I'm sure, is something they've thought about because of how popular games like Ark and those types of games have been on websites like Twitch. I'm sure that that's something they've thought of and some financial reasoning behind why they're doing it, which is smart. Good for them. So, 2 things. I said 3 things, but 2 things. Maybe 3 things. The first thing is that I've talked about this a little bit in the past. Java's channel, my little Java bean, I want to make a YouTube channel for him just for random, like, twice a week, or not even twice a week, not even on a schedule, but just kind of whenever, like 5-minute Java videos with some calming music, or even just silence in the background. He does so much random stuff that I figure I might as well record some of it and make his own channel, so that's coming along. I think it'll be Java Bean with a space in between the 2 words on YouTube, and I'll make his little channel. I've actually already made the channel. I just need to make a picture and a profile header and upload the first video. So that'll come along soon. Fallout Night Battle Royale would make more money. Yeah, that's true. Actually, you know what? We'll get to see Basher, because we've got 2 big games, Call of Duty and Fallout. Fallout's going the route of online Ark Survival Evolved, Rust, DayZ type. And Call of Duty is going the way of Battle Royale. Both of which we'll get talked more about at E3, and both of which will be coming out this year. And we'll see which one performs better, like relatively to how their predecessors performed. Obviously, Call of Duty is probably going to perform better. But if we take it relatively to how the game before them, Fallout 4 and whatever the previous Call of Duty was, we'll be able to see which one's more financially beneficial for them. Late 2018 Battle Royale or late 2018 online base building? For some reason, I feel like it'll be Battle Royale. I don't know why, but that's just the way the tides seem to be going. I looked so disgusted. Battle Royale. Not something that interests me. It's another thing that interests a lot of people, but I've tried it and it's not my thing. I just don't like playing it. Oh well. So yeah, Java's going to get his own YouTube channel soon. Just a little thing I thought I'd mention again. A little upcoming random thing. The other thing is future guests on the KoiCast. So as everyone watching right now and everyone who listens or watches it on YouTube will know, or already knows, I don't always just have a guest on every KoiCast. I think this is the second solo KoiCast I've done. The second solo podcast I've done. I did 2 with a IRL friend in person, Gingerbutts. And I have done 1 where I interviewed Fluffy. But I really, really, really want to do more interviewee, have a guest on, whether it be in person or on Discord type podcasts. Because I really, really love watching those kinds of podcasts and listening to those kinds of podcasts. And it was so fun to do that one. That interview one with Fluffy, or discussion interview with Fluffy, was like 2.5 hours long, and it went by so fast because it was so enjoyable to do. And I love stuff like that. So I don't know who the next guest on is going to be, but I really soon I want to do, whether it be some poll or have a place for you guys to say who you would want me to bring on type thing. But I want to do something like that, whether it be you guys saying people that you would want on, like realistically, And also me reaching out to more people to see who I can get on the podcast, because I love doing those now that I've done one and I really want to do more. Welcome back, Zoma. Hope Din was good. So 100% in the future, could be the near future, could be the far future. I'd rather be the near future. I 100% want to have on an interview and talk to Dr. Levi. I really, really want to do that. The gaming doctor, as he calls himself. Giving good advice for OSU and esports players to prevent injury. I absolutely want to, and saying right now that I will have him on at some point. And I hope it's sooner rather than later. So that's a big one. Do a KoiCast with Critality and talk about job ideas and debt issues. It would 100% be a possibility to get Razent on. Razent's another OSU streamer as well. I'm sure he'd be down. But I would love to have a thing on where you guys could, or have somewhere where you guys could say who you'd want on, whether it be someone like Razent, or someone like Dr. Levi, or someone like Happy Stick, or someone like Azer, or some other completely non-OSU related thing, like random streamer X and random streamer Y, or someone on YouTube, or someone here and there. Because there's something so fun for me to like form the questions, form the discussion points, look into what that person does, especially if there's someone that I'm a fan of or that I know about, and be able to ask them about this and that and get their opinions on this and that, and have viewer questions through these live podcasts for them. It's something we'll definitely be doing a lot more in the future, to the point where my plan for the KoiCast is to have that be every one. My eventual plan for the KoiCast is hopefully to have that be either continually once every other week or even once a week, and always have, or at least almost always have, someone new on to interview, whether it be me seeking them out myself, unrelated to your guys' suggestions, or from your guys' suggestions. That's the plan. So I don't know what we'll do for the next one, but I want to set sometime early next week. I'll set up somewhere for you guys to suggest people, and I'll start reaching out to people and seeing who I can get on, because I really, there's no limit, really. I mean, the worst case scenario is, even if you would want someone on, like, I don't know, someone who doesn't seem like I'd be able to get on the podcast, the worst case scenario for me reaching out to that person is either no response or them saying no, which is perfectly fine. But like, there's no limit to who you guys could suggest. Obviously, you know, don't suggest like the president of the United States type thing, but you know, realistically, but also no limits to that realisticness. But I'm looking forward to that. So I don't know what we'll do for the KoiCast 2 weeks from now. That'll be the next one, 2 Fridays from now. I hope to have someone on to interview. I don't know who it'll be, but I'll start reaching out to people, have a place for suggestions at the beginning of next week, and we'll go from there. That's the plan. Donald Trump. Hey, Critality. Welcome into the stream. Welcome into the KoiCast, which is actually right at the very end. There's some stuff in this KoiCast, Critality, that I think you specifically would be interested in hearing. It'll be uploaded on Monday to YouTube. Some of the stuff that we talked about earlier, that I brought up earlier. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes on Monday. That being said, I have one more thing to say before we end the KoiCast. One final stream-related thing. Also, Critality, you bought a webcam for streaming. Nice. And your bit badge is gone. Not nice. Not nice at all. Can you add it in like the name display settings under chat? Hopefully you can. Because you got that 5K bit badge now. The final thing that I want to say is today's June 1st. So happy June 1st, and with that, I'm going to end the quote now. Today's June 1st, which means it's now been I don't know if it's been 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, but it's been a day or a few after my year anniversary of streaming. I completely forgot. I've now been streaming on Twitch for basically exactly 1 year. Maybe 1 or 2 days longer than a year. So soon, I don't know when and I don't know what I'll do for it, but I have to do a special anniversary stream soon. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be this weekend. But next week sometime, we're going to be doing an anniversary stream because it's been a year. It's been a very fast year that I've been streaming. So yeah, huge thanks to everyone who has supported and watched and chilled throughout this year of streaming. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or somewhere else for the first time or watching on stream. But I don't want to spend too long talking about all that because we'll do a special stream for it soon and I'll probably upload stuff from that stream to YouTube. So that'll be the plan sometime next week. Big special anniversary stream for the year of streaming. So that's the plan. With that said, it's now been an hour and a half. Shockingly. Actually, I think it's been slightly less than an hour and a half, because even though I've been live for an hour and a half, when I upload this to YouTube and all that stuff, it's going to be a little less because it took me like 5 minutes to start. But it's basically an hour and a half. And it's gone by really fast. That was actually perfect timing, because I wanted to end the KoiCast at 7:30, and it's 7:30, and I just finished everything I wanted to talk about. So, feels good. Oh yeah, Catality, your name doesn't have random caps anymore. I actually like the blue as well. That's my favorite bit badge. The 5K bit one. Out of all of them. I love the blue and black. Alright. Thanks for listening to the KoiCast, the 5th KoiCast. A different one from most of the others. Solo gaming industry news type stuff. But it's been really fun. I'm glad I got to bring up and talk about all the stuff that I've been wanting to talk about. So again, next one, 2 weeks from now, I hope to have someone new on to interview. And I'll have something set up early next week for suggestions of who to reach out to and who to try to get on. But that's the plan for then. For now, on stream, we're going to switch over to Osu to have our Friday evening multi. But whether you're here watching on Twitch or listening on YouTube or even SoundCloud or iTunes, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. It's been a good time. And the next one of these will be 2 Fridays from now, live on Twitch. And I guess it'll be uploaded 2 Mondays from whenever this is uploaded. Or from the Monday that this is uploaded on. So yeah, it's been good. Have a great one. If you're not on the stream, we're going to continue streaming. But if you're not on the stream, have a great one. Have a great rest of your Monday, whatever day that you're listening to this, watching this. Lots of love. And that's that.